Do you support Donald Trump?
I do support Donald Trump.
For sure. Why so?
It's multifaceted. I happen to agree with his immigration policy. I happen to agree with his financial policy in regards to digital assets, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, things of that nature.
Okay, is that it?
Well, that's just the start. I think it's
Okay.
a good starting point.
Sure, sure, sure. Um, what about immigration? Like, could you name like an immigration policy of Trump's that you like?
I believe that immigration, his immigration policy is going to adversely benefit Black people. Um, I think that there's been a lot of benefit that illegal immigration has enjoyed on the backs of Black people, and Black people have been we've been the ones to suffer, kind of, right? We even when it comes to housing, the supply and the demand. I live in the Atlanta area, which has a high immigration population, illegal immigration population, and the rent is extremely high in Atlanta. Car insurance is extremely high in Atlanta because you have a lot of uninsured that drive, unlicensed that drive. And when they're in an accident and they're uninsured, unlicensed, and they're here illegally, they're going to most likely leave the scene of the accident. So you have to file that under your uninsured. Housing, um, it's about supply and demand. When you have a lot of illegal immigration that occupies a lot of the apartment complexes and the units, that takes units off of the market. The more units a landlord has, the cheaper the rent's going to be because they're just simply looking to rent those units. Um, when you have those units that are occupied by illegal immigration, it's going to send the rent higher. The same thing with food. Same thing with groceries and things of that nature. Um, I think that the illegal immigration is what's caused our recession and the inflation that we experience. That's what I believe.
Okay. So to clarify, you think that undocumented immigration is causing housing prices to go up, grocery prices to go up. You think it's causing a recession and inflation. Okay, these things would actually be contradictory to some degree because if it's causing a recession, that means it would be harming the economy in a downward trend in terms of GDP. But if they're causing rent to go higher and groceries to go higher, that means there's so much demand in the economy that it would be pushing the GDP up. So is it that GDP is going up or down due to immigration?
No, I'm not. I'm not concerned about the GDP overall. So you're speaking more so in its totality. I'm speaking more because again, it's about the individual states. I don't live in all of America. I live in Georgia, so I'm concerned. That's the demographic that I'm concerned with that I'm speaking.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. Here's my question though:
when
is demand going up or down?
it's going down, once you start deporting, it's going to go down. And
No, no,
when
no.
you
I'm
when the
s- I'm
demand
sa- I'm
starts to
saying
go,
with the
when the
level of
demand starts to
immigration.
go. Wait a
Can
minute.
I
Let me
clarify
answer
my
your question.
question?
You got to let me answer your question. You got to let
Well,
me
no,
answer your question.
I think you misinterpreted my question. Let me just clarify real quick. If immigration goes up, would that cause demand to go up or down?
That would also cause the demand to go up because you're going to need to house those people. You're going to need to feed those people. When the demand goes up, the price goes up.
Okay. But there's also a greater level of people who are working as well, right? Because there's
That's
also
irrelevant.
immigrants
That's
coming.
irrelevant. That's
Okay.
irrelevant.
So then supply increases and demand increases. So why would
It
equilibrium
doesn't necessarily increase the supply though, because and that's been demonstrative over even through
really?
COVID. Yeah,
So
it's been
more people
demonstrative.
within an economy doesn't increase the supply, but it increases the demand?
Absolutely. That's what isn't that how inflation?
Can you give me any
Isn't
can
that
you
how?
give me any source of that?
Um, okay, here we go with the sources thing, right? Because that's what y'all do. That's what y'all do, right? In order to minimize somebody's position, but simply because that's my personal opinion. It's not based off of have I gone to Pew Research or have I gone here or go? No, that's me. That's what I believe. That's what I think. And what I believe and what I think is what's important to me, not what somebody else deems to be important to them.
So you don't have a sources essentially. It's just trust me, bro. Like I believe this. This is the case
No,
because I believe it.
no, again, the cynicism is what minimizes the argument, right? There's no need to be cynical. It's not about just trusting me. That's the way I interpret the situation. That's the way I see it. That's the way it is. If you have a bunch of illegal immigrants that are occupying apartments, they're driving with no insurance and all of this other stuff, it's going to cause the price to go up. Insurance companies are going to go up on your rate because of the area that you live in that is known for yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So then, like, here's my question: do you think that you could fix that issue by providing them a pathway to citizenship? Like, do you think that when legal immigration goes up, that the same issue occurs?
I don't believe in the pathway to citizenship. The pathway to citizenship is the same way that everybody else's pathway was, right? I'm not against immigration. I just think that a lot of things that people enjoy today came off of the backs of black people. Even when it comes to
I agree
civil
with you.
rights, even when it comes to the things that the simple things that people enjoy. When during Jim Crow, during even through all of that, no one was rushing to get over here. Right? No one was rushing to cross the border to come over to America when black folks were, bearing the brunt of the nation's racism. It was only after laws started being passed. It was only after protection started being provided that now everyone wants to come over here, other than the indigenous, right? Because you got those that are because I believe, and this is just
Can I
me.
ask you a
Go
question?
ahead. Sure.
So, do you think the same issue that you were saying happens in terms of prices going up, house prices going up, and all the such? Do you think that same thing occurs if there was an increase in legal immigration?
Repeat that for me.
Do you think that the same issue would occur in terms of prices of houses going up, groceries, a recession and inflation, if it is the case that there's an increase in legal immigration?
I do think there would be an increase, but I don't think that it would be as absorbent, right? Everything is good in moderation. Everything is good in moderation. When you have something like when the Democrats and Joe Biden opened up the borders where millions of people came in illegally for whatever reason, I don't know if it was, I don't care. When you open it up, you put pressure on a system. When you put pressure on the system, now you cause the inflation that we experience. The price of groceries go higher, the price of rent goes higher, insurance goes higher, everything goes higher because it begins to throw off the natural order of things.
Okay. Well, I think you're only taking into account increase in demand. You're not taking into account increase in supply, and that's why you think that prices will go up. So I disagree with that. I think there's no study
I
basis
can
for that. There's
respect that.
no theoretical basis for that um, even based on the theory. If you want to reference legal immigration, though, you said that rent goes higher, groceries goes higher, and there's a recession due to an increase in immigration. So would you support net zero immigration?
I would support, no, not net zero. I would support immigration in moderation. I
Why?
believe in immigration in moderation. I think everything is better in moderation.
Okay, then
I think
can I ask you
everything.
a question then?
Sure.
Would you be okay with like 1 to 3% population growth per year?
Mm, is that an immigration population growth or just domestic population?
Does that matter?
Well, since we're talking about immigration, I would think that it would matter because one is different than the other. So we were just talking about immigration, and
But
so
I
I'm
guess
asking.
in what way is that different insofar as that it would matter to how you view increases in population?
There's not a country. Most countries you go to, and if you cross their borders illegally, you go to prison. Am I right about that?
I understand, but I don't think
No,
that
no, I'm
we
just asking you a question. So my point to you is, if most countries you go and you cross that border illegally, you would go to prison. Why wouldn't we, as a country, have some of the same laws in place and some of the same consequences to deter that, just like other countries have it in place to deter it?
I don't think that we judge what our laws should be based upon how other people's laws are. For example, throughout the entirety of like the world, we can point to a bunch of developed countries specifically that have universal healthcare programs. Do you believe in a universal healthcare program just because they provide that?
I do believe in universal health care. I do
Well,
believe
okay,
in I do
but
believe in universal health care. But I believe in universal health care for citizens. I
okay,
don't think that
sure,
anybody that's not in the country illegally should not be able to participate in the systems of the country.
sure, sure.
If Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't believe that they should be able to participate in any HUD programs, any food stamp programs, any housing program. If they're here illegally, I don't think that they should be able to participate in the system, country system.
okay. So like, let me just clarify a little bit further then. So here, I guess I'll go back to this point. Would you say that around the world, right, if they have a certain law, like every country around the world has a certain law, does that mean that law should exist here in the United States? Is that the argument you're providing?
Not at all.
Okay. Okay, that seems like it's not the argument then. So then it seems like you wouldn't use that argument for undocumented immigration, or like how we should treat our laws just because other countries do that. So
I,
I guess
there are a lot of laws in a lot of countries. There
let
are
me
a lot of
restate
laws.
my can I restate my question?
Yeah,
In terms of 1 to 3% population growth, it would be through legal immigration and or population increase in the country
absolutely,
domestically. Would you be
absolutely,
okay with 1 to 3% population growth?
absolutely.
Okay, that's around 3 to 12 million people per year. Did you know that?
That's fine.
Okay, if you're okay with 3 to 12 million people per year, well then you're okay with the level of people that came under the Biden-Harris administration. So then we should give
No,
a
because they
pathway to
came in
sit.
illegally. No, they came. No, because again, you're changing the goalpost. Because again, you specifically said legal immigration or domestic population growth. So now
I understand.
what
I
Biden
understand.
and Harris did was illegal. They let in people
Well,
that
well,
illegally.
well.
They were not citizens.
They technically didn't like pass a process to do that. That happened due to the economic insecurity that existed around the world due to the
That's not our
inflate.
problem.
Okay, I'm explaining why it happened. So it's due to the inflation. Due to the inflation that occurred, economic insecurity existed, and it increased the likelihood of people coming here. Plus, there was a backlog because of COVID. So those things are the reason why more people came in that specific manner. If you want to reference this, though, I was saying that you would provide a pathway to citizenship for all those that wanted to come here
Okay, so
through that very
well,
process that came here
every other
on.
country has boogeyman. So just
Can I
because they
please
got a
finish?
boogeyman, I mean, because you're splitting hairs and you're trying to draw false narratives or false equivalents to try to prove a point, right? And if they're not the same, but
What's
just
the false
because
equivalence?
just because someone else's conditions is different in their country, does not mean that we should open the door and allow them to come over here and reestablish. I don't think that that's a safe thing to do. And I understand that immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate than natural born citizens. That's because,
They
first of
do.
all, they're less than them. That's because there's less than them, but also the people that
Per
knock down
capita
the
rates.
towers. The people that knocked down the towers didn't commit not man crime here before they knocked down those towers. So that it's an irrelevant argument, right? Because if they're here to do harm, they're not going to bring a spotlight on themselves before they do the harm.
I
They're
mean,
not going to go and commit a bunch of crimes and then do a act, right? They're going to lay low. They're going to make
hey,
sure they don't commit
can I
crimes.
address this?
Blah, blah,
Can I
blah,
address
blah.
this? So the idea that
Sure.
undocumented immigrants are committing T attacks is ridiculous. Domestic Teaism is like actually the biggest
No,
issue that we specifically have right now, especially alt right domestic Teaism. If you want to
you're
reference like
being petty.
if you
You're
want to,
being petty. You're being petty.
what do you mean?
Because I
But
didn't say that. I'm not equating all illegal immigrants to being T's, right? That's not what. So that's the picture that you're trying to paint. I'm not saying that all of illegal immigrants are going to do something horrible. What I am saying is the ones that have done something horrible, they didn't come over here just committing crimes. They didn't come over here breaking in houses, robbing banks. They didn't come over here doing that. They kept a low profile until it was time for them to act.
okay. So under your perspective, how do you limit that from happening by having extra laws that make it harder or not as quick for people to get into the country?
You make it harder for.
If they haven't committed a crime, how would the vetting process limit them from getting into the country?
That's a good question. You got me on that one. The vetting process would have to the vetting process would have to change. Now, of course, there I don't disagree with the vetting based off of region. I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Can I make a point with this though? Is that I'm
Absolutely.
not disagreeing with the vetting process. I actually think that the way to incentivize people to go through the vetting process is to provide them a pathway to citizenship if they're already in the country undocumented. Otherwise, they don't really have an incentive to go through the vetting process, and instead they're going to try to stay in the country undocumented and avoid
Mhm.
authorities. For undocumented immigrants who are in the country, they do commit lower rates of violent crime and property crime in the United States compared to natural born US citizens by multiple times lower rates. And even for documented immigrants, the rate of crime that they commit is lower as well. So the idea that undocumented immigrants would be like bring greater rates of crime would also be ridiculous. Plus, people could just come through tourism. That's a legal process, and it is the case that they would be able to commit the same types of attacks that you're saying they'd be able to commit if they came through the process, like to
Yeah, in
immigrate
that
here.
case, then why create a vetting system at all, right? If they know that they can cross over illegally and then get a pathway to citizenship, why go through the vetting process at all?
Why have a vetting process at all? Because we want specifically people in the country, right,
Exactly,
who are.
exactly,
Wait,
exactly,
hold up. Can I please finish my statement?
exactly,
We want people in the country who have documents who have these particular types of pathways that are set up
exactly,
legally, so that they can't be mistreated themselves when they're in the country, right? So the system is meant to ensure good labor standards, working standards,
exactly.
right, and laws that we can actually enforce. Plus, it also incentivizes them to, like, if they witness a crime, they can like actually like say they witnessed the crime. When under the
You're
current
proving my
system right
point,
now, if they
Arthur.
have an incentive to stay undocumented, they would not come out as a witness for the crime, right? So the best way to actually
You're
incentivize them
proving
to
my
do that
point.
is by giving them a pathway to citizenship if they have not committed a violent crime or bad crime.
Parker, you proving my point.
I don't think I'm proving your point at all. What
I
point am
do
I
though.
proving?
Because if they come if they go through the vetting process, or if they come over illegally, what's the point in going over through the vetting process, right? And if they get over here illegally, and now they no longer have to worry about going through the vetting process because we offered them a pathway to citizenship, that it defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. If somebody is here illegally, a pathway to citizenship is not going to create some form of where I feel protected. No, they need to do the same thing that everybody else had to do and go through the vetting system. And whether that
Wait, a
means that
pathway to citizenship provides a vetting process. It's actually incentivizing them to go through the vetting process. I'm just saying the pathway to citizenship should be given to them where they
did
don't
you
have to
know
leave the
Trump had a vetting
country,
process? Did you
which
know
would
he
have a
has a
vetting
pathway to
process a part of it.
Yeah, Trump also the Trump administration also had a proposal to where he was paying them to go home and then offering them an opportunity to come
That's
back
I disagree
legally.
with that. I disagree with that because that process takes years to go through. I'm saying they shouldn't have to leave the country. They should be given a pathway to citizenship where they can go through quickly. And also, we should try to make the legal process quicker for other people who are trying to go through the other process, right? Because it
Okay,
currently has artificial barriers that have been put in place to restrict people from coming to the country, which I think shouldn't exist. And if we both agree that there should be 1 to 3% population growth of legal immigration, well, then we agree that there should be a significantly faster and safer immigration process. And I mean, your amount of people that you're okay with coming to the country is completely within the bounds of giving a pathway to citizenship to everyone who's already in the country undocumented. Like, I don't know why you
okay.
wouldn't in those circumstances.
How many undocumented did the Biden administration let in? Since you're a Biden proponent, how many
How many undocumented
illegal
immigrants came to the country under the Biden-Harris administration?
under Biden? Yes,
I think it was like 7 million.
7 million. 7 million. Of those 7 million, how many do you believe have gone home or still here illegally?
I'd have to check.
Undocumented. I'm gonna just
I'm
say
not sure.
undocumented. Yeah,
Not
I would
sure.
imagine that it's most or all, if, other than the ones that Donald Trump has already deported. Once again, I believe that a lot of the policies that Donald Trump is implementing in the long run, it may not be my generation, it may be the generation of my children or even my grandchildren or my grandchildren, children. But I believe it's going to benefit Black people in the long run. From the down to the National Guard being deployed to quell the violence in D.C., you see that the crime has damn near stopped. There's been no black on black crime since Donald Trump set them up there. Okay, just hang tight a tick or two. From the changing of the food stamp programs to the Section 8, all of these programs in the long run will benefit Black people because Black people have always been a resilient people and we've always depended on ourselves. There was a long time where those programs weren't even offered to us. That's why white people have such a head start and they occupy and they benefit from that system at a much larger rate than black people because they had a head start in the program. Those programs were offered to them way before they were even brought to us. So we've always been able to do it without a system. It's only when we became systemized and we started getting into the things and accepting the benefits, quote unquote benefits, that the system was offering, that it began. Most of the problems that the black people have stem from democratic policies, period.
Can I ask you about this real quick? So you say that crime is an issue that we need to address, correct? Like especially crime in DC?
I would imagine. I'm not a DC resident, so I wouldn't be able to speak to the crime statistics.
Well, no,
in
I just want to
DC.
clarify. I just want to clarify. Crime in DC is something that we need to address. Why do you think the person to address it is a convicted criminal who pardoned violent rioters who were police officers in DC?
You talking about Trump? Trump
Yeah.
wasn't in DC. He wasn't in DC. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, he did. He's a convicted criminal, and he pardoned violent rioters who beat police officers on January 6th. He pardoned them. He knew that they violent police officers, they were convicted of it, and he
I didn't
pardoned the
agree
people
with
who
that.
did that.
I
So, like,
actually didn't agree with it.
how would you think that this guy, the guy who specifically is a criminal himself, who
Because
pardoned violent rioters on January 6th, how would you think that this is the person specifically to address crime in the country?
okay, you want me to answer that, Parker?
Yeah.
The same way that y'all think that Bill Clinton was the man to solve crime in the country when Bill Clinton
I don't think he was.
wait
I don't think he was.
no wait, he's the Democrat. I don't care if he was the president or not. He was the president then, and I'm sure at the time
I wasn't even
there-
alive. I wasn't even
Okay,
alive.
well,
I don't know
whatever.
how.
I'm still.
I'm
It doesn't
sorry.
matter
This
whether
isn't
you
even
were
an
alive or
argument
not,
against me
it's
because I wasn't alive.
Whether you were alive or not, Parker, is irrelevant.
What?
It is absolutely irrelevant. It's still the party that you support now. So it's still the policies of it's still with the policies of the party that you support now. And the same way that Bill Clinton and there were Republicans.
You can't say I'm being hypocritical about it if I didn't have that position. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay. It's the same position. It's the position of the party that you support, whether you were alive then or not, Parker. That is
Okay,
irrelevant.
can I ask you this? Can I ask you this question then?
You chose this.
Do you think
career
do you think the Republican Party today, right, specifically, can be held accountable and held to the idea specifically that because their Republican platform in 2016 said that they wanted to ban gay marriage, that's the current position that they should be held accountable for? People who are voting in the Republican Party.
See, I think that's a loaded question because that speaks to what my position might be one way or the other, and that's not something that I'm willing to discuss. I think that's a personal conversation, whether or not you support gay marriage or
What? I'm sorry.
It's a loaded question
Wait.
because
Do you? No, it's not. Wait.
your
Do you
question
think gay marriage should be considered legal?
again, that's not a subject that I'm willing to discuss.
What do you mean? It's obvious. Yes, it should be legal,
No,
right?
we were talking about crime and immigration.
Wait, I'm sorry. Do you think it should be illegal to get married if you're gay?
Are you assuming that?
No, I'm asking you because I
just stated to you that that's not a subject that I'm willing to broach. So if we can move on to something else,
I guess why not?
Because I've heard you say that you're not answering Dean as well. Because I've debated Dean as well. That you don't answer personal questions. Isn't that what y'all say?
This isn't a personal question. This is
Yeah,
related to.
No, that's not related to the debate because we were debating something different. We were debating immigration. We were debating supply, demand, and things of that nature. Now you're getting off into other things that no matter what side of that argument you're on, you're going to piss somebody off, and those aren't the kind of conversations I like to have.
Hey, I assume that you had the position that it should be legal, and that you disagree with the Republican Party right now being branded as the party that is anti-gay. Yeah, I mean, do you disagree? So then you think it should be illegal?
No, I'm just not answering your question, Parker. What part of that don't you understand?
So you're just not going to engage with my argument at all?
Not on that. We were talking about something different. You're changing.
I
the
promise
argument.
you. No, this is a relevant
if you
point.
want to talk about, if you want to get into a different conversation, we can do that. But what you're doing is trying
This
to
isn't a
bait me
different conversation. This is a relevant point.
No, it's not to this though, because again, I don't do that, right? I have a large platform just like you do, so I don't.
Okay, wait. So then, do you think I should brand the Republican Party as the party specifically that started the Iraq War? Because Bush specifically, right, was the one who was proponing that and advocating for that. That's earlier in terms of how happened more recently than Clinton. Should I hold you accountable for being pro-war? Should I brand you
Um,
as pro-war because of that?
I
Should I say
wasn't
you're being
supporting the party
hypocritical
back.
for
I
being
wasn't supporting the
anti-war?
party back then. I wasn't supporting the party back then.
Wow. Wow. Did you just hear exactly what you answered? You answered the exact
I,
reason why I wouldn't be
I'm,
held accountable for Bill
I'm being
Clinton. I wasn't
sarcastic.
even alive. I didn't support the party at the time. I wasn't
I'm being
alive.
sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic.
Well, then what's your actual response then?
I think everyone is responsible for their own actions. I believe that every party is responsible for their own actions. And no one is going to agree with 100% of any party's position. There are going to be positions and policies of every party that voters are not going to agree with. There are going to be actions that are taken by that administration throughout that term that people are not, that supporters of that party may not necessarily agree with. Right. That doesn't mean that that is attributed to who they are as people, their morals, their values, their ethics, the things that make them viable people. Um, so I'm cautious because I don't like to alienate no people, whether they're gay, they're straight, they're trans, I don't care what it is. I don't like to black, white. I don't give a damn. I don't want to alienate anyone. However, I do believe that everyone should move accordingly. Everyone should do what's necessary, what's required. And if you're not doing what's necessary and required, yes, you need to start over. And you mentioned how long it takes, the process takes for them to go back home and start over. As many years as a lot of them have been here, they could have started that process and been done by now had they done it while they were here. So I don't think that that's a fair argument either.
Well, that's assuming that they would be able to stay in the country while they did it, which is the process I'm advocating for, but not the process that currently exists.
Touche.
So, I mean, that's one thing. And then two, as it relates to this, um, like it does seem like to some degree that I could then argue that I disagree with Clinton, and then you can't hold me accountable for that. So I don't know. I'd be held accountable for Clinton, but can we address again why you think Donald Trump would be the one to address crime, as he's a convicted criminal who pardoned violent rioters who beat police officers?
I'm looking at the end goal, right? Um, I think, I think everyone is racist, right? I think everyone is inherently racist. Racist meaning I'm pro-race. I think everyone is pro-race. I don't think that just because you're pro-race that you're prejudiced. I think that everyone has a right to be pro-race, whether you're Asian, whether you're Russian, whether you're white, black, or whatever. I think everyone is pro-race. I believe, this is me, that because the gangs aren't going to go and just put their gun in Parker. They're not going to just come and say, here's my straps, here, and lay them down in the middle of the street. It's going to take some action, right? With all of the lives being lost, whether it's Chicago, where he's talking about going into, Baltimore, which he's talking about going into, DC, which he is already in, Georgia, that has already signed on and agreed to call the National Guard to help with immigration. That's what they're there for. That's what they're there for. They're there to deter crime. And if crime is to the point to where you have to now start to activate a National Guard, the National Guard hadn't taken
I have a
anybody
question.
out.
Do you support a National Guardsman being sent to every school in America?
No.
Why not? To prevent mass shootings? Why not? Isn't
I,
that going to deter crime?
the schools
Yeah.
is different than the streets.
Why?
Schools are different than the streets.
In what way that makes it relevant? Why do you
Because
want to?
school,
Why do you want to like send in the National Guard to different cities specifically to address crime, but not specifically the mass schools? Kids don't deserve
school
protecting.
violence doesn't happen every day. People get losing their lives on streets, dude.
Okay, so wait, so in cities in which crime doesn't happen every single day, or on blocks that don't,
That's not what I said.
like city blocks that don't experience crime every single day, they shouldn't have protection from National Guardsmen?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. If it's necessary, sometimes it's not necessary. The local police may have it under control. But when you have cities like Chicago, Baltimore, New Orleans, all of these cities, which I'll give you, are Republican-run cities.
Did DC?
They are.
Wait, I have a question. Did DC ask for Donald Trump to send in the National Guard?
He didn't need their permission.
Okay, So wait, wait. So then, why did he need their permission on January 6th?
He didn't need their permission. I
He
didn't
didn't.
recall
So
him
why?
asking.
So why didn't he send the National Guard on January 6th right away?
You have to ask Donald Trump that one. I'm imagining that's rhetorical because you're asking me a question that
So
would put me
did
in the
he
mind.
want the crime to happen?
Again, I'm imagining that's rhetorical because you're asking me to
No,
make an
that's an
assumption.
actual genuine question.
Well, you're asking me to think how somebody else thinks or to determine what somebody else might have been thinking at the time, and I can't do that.
I have a thought experiment. If a presidential candidate pardoned someone who child, right, like intentionally in child, would you say that they condoned that behavior by pardoning them?
I would.
Okay. Donald Trump pardoned violent rioters on January 6th, police officers. Would that mean that he condones that behavior? That he wanted it to occur?
I would say that. I would think that would be a fair argument. Again, there going to be decisions by every administration that you're not going to like, by every president, by every politician, by no matter who it is that you may agree with, may not, and some of them may go beyond the pale of which you're willing to support. Just because I support the policy does not mean I support the person.
Sure. So if you agree that it's a fair argument, then how do you feel about the fact that Donald Trump incited a violent insurrection at the Capitol? Because
I don't believe I don't believe that to be the case.
wait,
Again,
that's exactly what he did. He told people to fight
I don't
like
think
hell
so.
to take back the.
I believe that what happened at the Capitol, I believe that was incited not by Donald Trump. I believe that there were people fed to do that. I believe that people were encouraged to do that. I believe that some people were pushed to actually participate in that. That's what I believe.
By Donald Trump. He said to fight like hell and to take back the country from those that stole it from them. And he specifically pardoned the violent rioters. So he wanted the violence and he told them to go to the Capitol. That's actually him inciting a violent insurrection. That's like by definition. I mean, because he wanted the violence to happen and he told them to go to the Capitol to take back the country from those that stole it from them.